This week, we've been building stealth spaces in the third tourist. A lot of the work ended up tying together really quite well, even though it started as a few seemingly unconnected jobs. We've been working on house interiors, a new hidden cave area, better trespass and hide zones, and we finally solved a weird fog and global illumination issue that had been bothering us for ages. One of the bigger tasks was starting to implement the interiors of the Gothic mansions on Baycliff Road. These have only existed as shell forms up until now, but turning them into actual gameplay spaces is a different proposition entirely. Building interiors may sound straightforward, but it gets awkward very quickly when you're working with a modular grid and trying to fit in things like stairs, circulation space, and rooms that still feel believable, which is all perfectly manageable right up until you actually try to do it. Add on top of that, they also need to work for gameplay, not just for the player moving through them, but for NPCs as well. For this game, the interiors need to support stealth, which means they need to be good spaces for observation, movement, hiding, and getting caught in a bad position. So it's not really enough for a room to just look right, it also has to play right. We did actually do a spike into procedural room generation a few years ago and even looked at some academic research. But for this project, it just ended up being too complicated and too removed from the exact kind of spaces we wanted to build, which is often how these things go. We've also been building out a new gameplay area, a cave with a naughty plant farm hidden inside. The main entrance now has an electronic gate, which helps sell the idea that this is a place you're not really meant to be getting into casually, or legally for that matter. But there's also a secret way in. You can break the lock on the well, drop down, and come in through a hidden cave passage instead. That immediately makes this space more interesting from a stealth point of view, because now there's the obvious route and the sneaky route. That's the sort of thing I always like in these spaces. If the player sees the blocked entrance first, then later realizes there's another way in, it just feels much better than being handed a single obvious path. We also added spline-based cables through the cave, which helped make the whole setup feel more improvised and believable. They also serve to poke a player's nosiness gland, which is always useful. And one little detail I liked was improving the way the light from the grow lamps bounces around the corner. It's subtle, but it helps tease the space before you fully see it. We also finally solved a long-standing issue with fog and global illumination inside buildings. Some of the darker spaces just weren't looking right, as you can see here. We had this undesirable fogging. The fix turned out to be an APV volume override to disable GI contribution from fog, which is one of those very Unity sentences that only makes sense after you've already suffered. And honestly, this one was a bit humbling. We thought we were fairly experienced with APVs by this point, but this specific fog GI contribution setting was completely new to us. It was only after throwing the problem around a bit that we finally joined the dots and found the right override. Unity does this from time to time. It keeps you humble or tired, usually both. Another system improvement this week was upgrading our trespass zones. These used to be collider trigger based and now they are spline based instead. So instead of forcing the environment to fit a box trigger, the trespass space can actually follow the shape of the world, which is nice because the world itself is not, as it turns out, made entirely of rectangles. We also added a hide zone to the terrain detail stamp, which means we can draw areas of long grass that the player can actually use for hiding. So overall, this week was really about making Baycliff Road feel better as a stealth space. Better interiors, better infiltration routes, better hiding spaces, and better visual readability in darker areas. A lot of these are small pieces individually, but together they make the game feel much more coherent. And before I wrap up, I wanted to quickly touch on a comment from the last video about the Ghost Tour mission. A viewer mentioned that they didn't really like the mission aborting if the player got too far behind, and that they preferred the idea of the NPC just pausing until the player caught up, which is fair. However, any game like this needs to be able to abort or reset a mission if the player decides to go off and do something else, which, to be fair, players do tend to do. And we can't really leave poor Rowan standing around in the dark all night while you wander off and do something else. So this mission type is very configurable. The NPC can wait or continue. The abort distance and or time can be adjusted to suit the individual mission or use a fail state depending on what the gameplay actually needs. That gives us a lot more control, and it means the system can support different kinds of mission design instead of forcing one answer everywhere. So that's where things are this week. We're slowly turning Baycliff Road into a more interesting place to explore and sneak through and get into trouble in. Remember to please wishlist The Third Tourist on Steam, and I'll see you in the next one.